What's your thoughts on government cover-ups or covert societies attempting to control humanity? Do you believe in ancient astronauts, intergalactic communication, or extraterrestrial visitations? Ever had an experience with disembodied spirits or the paranormal universe? Are these subjects fact or fiction? Each week, Tony and Eddie explore these unbelievable realities and beyond. Exclusively on Truth Be Told.
Welcome back to Truth Be Told, where we believe an experience becomes truth. I'm your host, Tony Sweet, and joining me now in studio, world-renowned psychic Eddie Connor.
Hello, everyone.
We want to thank you for supporting our sponsors, Earth Friendly Products. For over 40 years, they've made Earth a safer, cleaner, and greener place to live with all their natural home cleaning products. Request them at your local grocery store and health food market. Learn more about earth-friendly products online at ecos.com. That's ECOS.com.
And take your mind on a literary journey by traveling over to adventuresunlimitedpress.com to purchase books from our famed experts featured right here with Truth Be Told with Tony and Eddie. And welcome our friend and today's co-host, Ellen Dostal.
Thank you, Eddie. Our first guest is sharing her experiences with voodoo curses, vampire legends, cities of the dead, and she's also sharing ancient wisdom teachings that can be used in our modern times.
Award-winning author Kala Ambrose writes for the Huffington Post, The Examiner, AOL, Yahoo, and Fate magazine, to name a few. She presents national workshops on the mind-body-spirit connection, and this includes auras and energy fields, developing entrepreneur intuition, haunted history, and wisdom teachings at the Omega Institute. She has her own school, and it's called the Academy of Mystical Arts and Spiritual Sciences.
Kayla is a teacher on a mission to educate, entertain, and inspire. She is known as your travel guide to the other side. Some of her books, The Awakened Aura and 9 Life-Altering Lessons.
These are secrets that the mystery schools are unveiling, and we're also going to be talking about her other book, one of my favorites, Spirits of New Orleans, which is about voodoo curses and a whole lot more. So ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome world-famous host of Explore Your Spirit with Kala, Kala Ambrose.
Oh my goodness, and she's gorgeous. She's gorgeous.
She's got all that gorgeous hair, that gorgeous skin. She's featuring it, ain't she?
Hi, Kayla.
Hi, so glad to be here. Thank you guys for having me on.
Well, we are excited. Eddie was telling me all kinds of stuff about you, and most of it was good. I'm just kidding.
How dare you?
Eddie, now you promised to keep my secrets. You know that.
I know, because we went to the secret mystical schools, girl.
That's right. Many lifetimes.
That's
many
right.
lifetimes.
So how much do we love your title? Your travel guide to the other side.
Love it.
We love it. How did you come up with that?
Well, it's kind of what I love to do. You know, when you have those dreams and you're like, what if I could do everything I love and actually make a living at it? And I was like, what do I love? I love history. I love the paranormal and the supernatural. And I love to travel. So I was like, wow, I wonder if that could actually happen. And it did. I was able to put it together into a business and write about it and teach about it. And I spend most of my time, my mother always called me spirit walker. She always said I had one foot in the earth plane and one foot in spirit. And so I've always been walking that line and traveling between both. And that's how the title kind of birthed itself.
Well, in this movement of spirituality, the paranormal and metaphysics and that sort of world, Kayla, have you noticed that, and I'm not dissing nobody because I'm a spiritual person, okay? But have you noticed in our movement, there's a lot of people who do what we do that can't balance a checkbook and they can't sort of get their things together, and you are one of the few. You're sort of this high frequency enigma where you have the foot in the left brain world, very physical, very grounded, amazing entrepreneur yourself, and yet you have your foot in that other world, the spiritual world, the non-physical world, and you have found a way to bring it all together. And then I thought that was an astute observation, if I say so myself, and then I realized that you teach developing entrepreneur intuition, which I have never, ever seen on the earth plane.
Thank you. I think that's part of the reason I'm here this lifetime, is to teach that to really be a great psychic, if you want to do this type of work, you still have to be in the world. You don't have to be of the world, but you still have to, you've come down to the earth plane for a reason. And so that's one of my passions, is to really teach this, that you can do everything that you need to do for your earthly life while still, going up to the higher realms and doing all these things with your intuitive abilities. So I love to teach people how to build a business with it, or how to use all of these things in very practical ways. Like my aura teachings, I go all around the country, like you mentioned, to places teaching about the aura. I was just at Edgar Casey's teaching it again. And I've taught people in the military how to use the aura. So when they're out in the field, they can kind of sense if there's someone in a building before they go into it. I've taught people at the United Nations how to read the aura. So when they're in those meetings, people are speaking different languages and they're waiting for an interpreter to tell them what they mean. They can read the aura of the person and kind of get a sense if the person's being authentic. I've taught businessmen how to read it. So when they're doing interviews or trying to build their company, there's so many practical purposes. Maybe astrologically, I'm a Capricorn, so I had to find the logical ways to incorporate all of the spiritual work. But to me, it really enhances the whole mind, body, spirit connection. And I think this is the evolution of where we're going. I already think we're all psychic and have this ability. It's just whether we've been trained and encouraged to open it.
Kayla, do you also think that's because our energy always precedes us when we go into a room? So in other words, we're always leading with who we are, whether we're intending to or not?
Absolutely. That's a lot of what I talk about with the aura, is that there is no privacy, really. If you can read a person's aura, you can sense everything about them. And even if you don't, you feel it when you walk into a room. You may not even know what the conversation is, but you walk into the room and you get a sense if it's good or not, or if the people are upset, without them even saying anything directly to you. We all sense the aura like this. And the aura is evolving. We're going through an evolution. That was the point of the Awakened Aura book. There's lots of great aura books, but I'm seeing an evolution in the aura. So I wanted to write about that and say, look, things are changing. We're all about to get more intuitive, more telepathic, more psychic. Ready or not, here it comes. And I see these changes in the aura and the chords
and don't you
that connect us.
And don't you think also that the more we know about that, the more we know about our energy or about the aura, the better off we are as far as dealing with other people and helping our businesses and helping our relationships? I'm sure that's why you're doing it, right?
Yes, I teach mothers how to tap into the auras of their babies when their babies are crying. So is the baby sick, or is it just tired and cranky? Or what about that teenager? Is the teenager not speaking because their aura is kind of clouded because maybe they are doing drugs or alcohol, or are they just being a moody teenager? And in relationships, I talk about how what happens when you have sex with the aura, how it connects the energy there.
Let's talk about that. Let's get into that, actually.
Because you can see that. I see that. With those chords that reach out. I talk about one chord's like, hey, and the other chord's like, hey, and how they connect, and what happens relationship-wise. It's fascinating.
There's one chord bigger than the other.
Wait. Well, it depends if there's two men in the room at the same time. So how many chords are there actually in that area? Let's say you're in a really good place. You're feeling pretty good about yourself, and the person you're with is feeling good. And let's just pretend it's just two people really happy to see each other. You want to say really happy. Mm-hmm. and so how many chords,
it's making that chord grow.
Yeah, as it were. How many chords of energy are involved in that sort of connecting?
Well, and I talk about, how you connect in different ways. If you first meet a person, and let's say, the passion is hot, you have a one-night stand or something, there's just, the chords are coming right from that second chakra, right? Because you've engaged in that level of the body. Versus if you get to know someone over time, the chords from the other chakras in the aura reach out. You talk to the person, the fifth chakra opening, you're opening up, you're sharing. So other chords at different levels reach out. You fall in love. So the heart chakra opens in that chord. And that's why different relationships go differently for people, depending upon what level and what chakra their chord first connect with that person. And if you start out with a person that you communicate well and you strengthen that chord, then it's going to lead to more open communication in the relationship. So the chords shift and change, and then the longer you're with the person, the thicker the chord gets. When it's first, hey, it's this little chord connecting. When you've been with someone a long time, it's a big round chord, right?
Yeah.
That's expanding, and that's why couples that are married a long time or together start to look alike or can finish each other's sentences, they're developing those telepathic cords that are bigger.
Wow.
Is this what you're teaching at the Academy of Mystical Arts and Spiritual Sciences?
Yes, I just finished teaching a 6-week online course about that, and it was videoed, so it's available now as a video course. I've taught it at Omega, at Edgar Casey's, at Lilydale, the Learning Annex. I've been all over the country teaching it. Now I teach it online through my school. I'm really passionate about people understanding what you can do when you understand the aura, how it affects your relationships, how it can affect your career, everything. It's not just see the pretty colors. It's actually, practical purposes that are very helpful.
I think we need to get 10,000 Kala Ambroses, and I think we need to fly her to Washington, D.C.
I was going to ask.
during the election
there
and
you go.
stand around the White House and Congress whenever they're passing bills secretly in the middle of the night and be going, I see your aura. and so clock them immediately.
When you watch, I'm don't gonna get political here, but when you watch like CNN and Fox and all these political shows and people speaking in Congress and
The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills,
the president speaking, I mean, do you see majority of politicians with a
darker aura?
Yeah, with a darker aura.
When someone's lying, it's like I hear it and I see it in the aura. It goes liar, liar, liar. So it's really hard to watch Congress. I'm hearing a lot of, but yeah, I see the aura of everyone, and I can usually, John Edwards, who had his TV show for years,
right.
He started an online TV show, and I was on his show for about 1.5 years reading auras for people live on there. And it was interesting because whether it was a phone call or they were on video or I saw a picture, it was the same way. I can read the auras just connecting through the energy of the person. It didn't really matter which way, which was fascinating. So I can watch that. I've watched C-SPAN before just to tune into the auras and see what's going on, and and different things like that. So yeah, once you learn, it's everywhere. You see it on everyone, and not just people, but I've tapped into auras of buildings, in nature, animals.
Really?
So collective energy?
Yeah, in fact, with my Spirits in New Orleans book, one of the buildings I wanted to investigate was closed to the public at the time. It had been sold, so I couldn't go into the building. So I put my hand physically on the building, kind of like using psychometry and tapping into the energy and the aura of the building that was resonating with the energy as well to see what was going on.
Kayla, is this something you've always been able to do, or did it just happen one day, or did you learn how to do this?
Kind of all of above. I was born this way. Let me start out saying that. And my parents recognized it early on. I grew up in Louisiana, which is more open to these things. So I was very fortunate to have parents that were open to it and had other people in the family that my great grandmother supported her whole family in South Louisiana, reading tea leaves and tarot cards. And so this wasn't unknown. My grandfather had gifts that they talked about. And every third generation, one of us pops out with this red hair, and we seem to have more of it than the rest of them, and they go, oh God, here it is again.
So I bet it was really fun writing that book, Voodoo Curses, Vampire Legends, and Cities of the Dead.
Ooh.
Sure, that's just my life in general, right? It's autobiography.
That's funny.
Well, and you know something? I was reading some of this last night, and I did not go to sleep till 4 o'clock in the morning, so thank you for my nightmares. And I was reading the one, first of all, the house you were just speaking about, I read that section, and that was owned by Nicolas Cage for a small amount of time, right?
Yes, it was, yep.
And then he lost it because that house has a curse on it.
It is cursed. It's so many people have tried to own that place.
Really?
And that's now, if you watched American Horror Story, that's a really creepy show.
Oh,
I do.
yes.
I love that show.
Okay, well, Kathy Bates, remember she played
Yes.
a character in there? Madame Lalaurie, well, that's her home. That Nicolas Cage bought. Now, in the book, and Eddie, if you've read that story yet about the horrors of Madame Lalaurie, a lot of it is not true. And I spent a lot of time researching and got to go into the Louisiana State Museum and the Cabildo and really go back in the archives and have found that a lot of that was hearsay and gossip and not true. She was a wealthy woman and had a cousin trying to discredit her to get the money because her husband had died. And I reveal really the truth. And now there's some great books that have come out about that as well, talking about that. But needless to say, there were terrible things that happened in that home. And there's, I write about the stories about the man who tried to turn into a furniture store, who would wake up every morning and go in there and there'd be ectoplasm on everything, just this goo. And all these, they tried to have a school there and it didn't last. And now it's been sold and they're turning it into apartments, which I can't even imagine.
Oh, wow. There's no way. It's one of those, just reading the story, you could tell whenever you went and put your hand on the house. I'm like, no, girl, no.
But, Kayla, this is John. I'm just joining the conversation in the next hour here. And the question I have is, what is a curse for those who don't believe in a curse? I mean, like, can you define what a curse is? Because I've heard that there's camps that believe that there are curses, and there's camps that don't believe in curses. And then, can a curse be cleared?
That's a great question. Curses really tend to go with what we believe and what we put in I call our personal book of truth, which we decide upon what we're going to believe, what our parents tell us, what our religion tells us, our society, our culture. So there are some people who can go into a building and don't believe that there's anything there and aren't sensitive and may not sense anything at all. And so in a sense, they're not being affected by it. While someone else who is or is more sensitive feels the energy. There's a lot of talk with voodoo curses, right? So I put that in the book, but voodoo curses in some is the power of the persuasion, that connection there, that thought, and sending that thought out and whether you respond. But at the same time, I've done a lot of research there with stories where people didn't know things were being done to them. There's something that's put under their home or under the stairs or left in their yard or put somewhere in their home they don't know, and they begin having problems, and it's not till that object is removed that it lifts. So they didn't have focused knowledge of it, right? But it was still occurring.
But they could. I'm sorry, but so they could. So let's say there's somebody who didn't believe in the curse that had like some kind of a negative amulet or something put on their property. Then they started noticing they were having some bad luck here or there or challenging things. Could it be that even though their conscious mind, they might say, "I don't believe in curses." Sure. They might subconsciously feel like life is really hard. Every time I get ahead, I go 2 steps back. Could that be contributed to activating the curse, even with a person who doesn't believe in it?
I think so. And I think, the jury is really still out about when and how curses work. I've talked to people who swear to me that they do. I've, talked with all types of practitioners when I was researching this book to find out. And, some will say people that don't know, still have things happen even when they're not in that place. So it's still subjective. It's one of those great mysteries. And that's what makes it so interesting is all of these mysteries and the metaphysical, the paranormal, none of us know the answers for sure. If someone starts telling you they know all, I say run. If that person tells you they've got it all figured out, because that's part of this. It is a great mystery, right? It's, so I try to give just sharing the stories and the information from what I heard from different people without saying, I know for sure, here's the right answer. But I do believe that, when we work on ourselves, when we enhance our aura, when we build psychic protection and with our energy, that we can defend ourselves from most of these things. And, things, we have karma, we have things that are going to happen, but it's our free will, how we choose to handle it, how we choose to let it affect us. And I think that's most important, really.
So, okay, this is Tony, and I want to ask that, are you saying curses, you can put a curse on yourself, or a family can put a curse on themselves, or does it have to be somebody that has the gift to put a curse on someone?
Well, that's a subjective too, isn't it? I mean, if you're thinking bad thoughts all the time, what I call stinking thinking, I say to my students, right? So in a sense, you're cursing yourself. If you're always like, oh, I can't do this, or this will never happen, you are kind of in a sense doing that, aren't you?
Right.
And so that's different than practitioners that say that they're doing things. And I think Hollywood has dramatized this a lot. I don't think there's as many people going around cursing people. When I met with practitioners, let's say of voodoo, for example, it's a very beautiful spiritual religion. And it's really mostly intended to help people from problems. When you talk about Marie Laveau, who's probably the most famous, she's the queen of voodoo. People don't know her story. She worked with the Catholic Church. She worked with Pierre Antoine there, the main priest in the parish. She cared for the sick. She healed people. She worked with the poor. She was the one who through her magic, is reputedly the person to stop public executions in New Orleans and in Louisiana. She did great works, and she opened up when she would do her ceremonies. She opened them up to the public. She invited all of the press to come in. She was so well known for these works and saving people from ways they had been wronged, that her obituary was in the New York Times, and you know how hard that is. Not everyone gets their obituary in the New York Times, especially back then for a woman. So she's well known and beloved for the good she did, not really cursing anyone. And I think that's what happens is, like, Hollywood has really turned voodoo. You hear voodoo and you think curse, and that's not the case. It's actually a pretty beautiful, honorable religion. There's a lot of good things in it.
So speaking of doing good, you clearly have the heart of a teacher, and you clearly are invested in other people being able to access the energy within themselves that will help them pretty much do anything they want in their lives. And you have a course coming up that would absolutely help people. Would you tell us a little bit about that?
I do. Yeah, I love that, the way technology is now, that we're communicating like this. It's incredible, this age of Aquarius that we're in, with this Aquarian energy, with the internet really is the best sign of Aquarian. And so now I'm able to teach online, and I have students in Australia and Canada and Europe and all throughout the US, all the time zones, that can study online with me through live GoToWebinar, and then we video it and people can buy the videos afterwards as well. And I'm coming up April 2nd, I'll be teaching psychic school, 6 weeks of psychic school, how to tune in, teaching you everything I know, how to grow your psychic ability, be more intuitive, which ones are the best for you, how to hone these skills, and to understand that you don't have to wear a turban. You don't have to be Madam Kala, knows all, sees all. You don't have to be take your psychic shingle. You can just be intuitive, because it helps you in your life, in your work, in your love, and for any reason. It's not necessarily that, oh, I'm psychic, so I have to do this one thing.
Do you give people homework?
I do. They have exercises to do and homework, and each course is very serious. You're joining the academy, you become a student, you receive certificates of completion, you work together. It's intense. And when you walk away from these studies, like I just did the 6 weeks, Activate Your Aura, now a psychic school coming up soon, I'll be teaching how to write a book, and teaching all I know, from writing the book proposals to writing the books like I do. I'll be teaching about interior design and how to put the energy into your home, because I'm certified in traditional feng shui as well.
That's what I need.
I studied that for years. So lots of different courses like that. And each one you walk away fully knowing what to do and how to do it to change your life in whatever way works for you.
Can we do one little thing, and maybe you can, if it doesn't take too long, is there something like an assignment or something that we could do here?
Polish up our auras.
Yeah.
Oh, for your aura.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Here's a quick one.
Okay.
So everyone, when you go to sleep, this is why you sleep. Your aura recharges itself. And so that helps. But in today's world, we're so stressed and busy that sleep is not enough to charge our aura, to charge our chi, our prana. So our auras get deflated and run down with things. So to supercharge your aura back up and make it even stronger, where it can be like a psychic force field, you want to do some active work. Now, I'm what's called an esoteric wisdom teacher, which means I've studied with several different orders that their teachings come from ancient Greece and Egypt. So I do a lot of rituals that are from those ancient temples. And in this one, I'm going to see how I can show you on the video here, but you want to put your arms up as high as you can out to the side.
All right.
And you're making a V, okay? You want to put your arms up in the air like that, making a V. Now that V is making kind of like, you look like a martini glass, right?
Right.
Yeah. Kind of cauldron energy. And what you want to do every morning when you get up is hold your arms up in the air like that. Take 3 deep breaths, breathing in very deep, exhaling very slow and calm. Feel the energy. Breathe in, deep breath. Hold it, 2, 3, exhale. And one more, third time. Deep breath in, holding it, and exhale. And then repeat after me. What you want to say is, I am surrounded by the pure white light.
I am surrounded by the pure white light.
Only good comes to me.
Only good comes to me.
Only good comes from me.
Only good comes from me.
I ask for highest and best.
I ask for highest and best.
In divine order.
In divine order.
divine wisdom,
divine wisdom,
and divine love.
and divine love.
I give thanks.
I
Give thanks.
Now, while you're standing holding this energy, you should start to feel a little tingling in the energy. You're pulling in that white light from the higher planes, holding your arms up like this. So at this point, you can ask and speak directly to the universe and to your guides, to your higher self, and ask for something that you want for that day. Whether you're trying out for a new job or you're just looking to find love, whatever it is, you can ask at this time because you're fully created a divine connection with your aura to the higher realms. Then when you're done, you want to seal it. You want to seal this energy in your aura because the aura is what sends out this energy, all your thoughts and emotions. So you bring your arms across and you cross them across your chest. Okay. This looks like the ancient Egyptians when you see the mummies, how they would seal the energy in. This closes this pure white light in your aura and you'll feel refreshed. Now, when students study with me, I ask them to do this at least once a day for 6 weeks. And I've never had someone tell me that it did not change their life in some way and that they could feel they had more energy, they slept better, they were more restored. It takes what was that, 2 minutes, 3 minutes tops.
That was amazing. Thank you.
That was amazing, and I did. I had tingles in my fingers.
Yeah.
So, and for people out there that are just tuning in, Eddie, would you mind giving us
Absolutely. You're tuning in to Truth Be Told on air with Tony and Eddie. I'm Eddie Connor.
I'm Tony Sweet.
Ellen Dostal.
And John Williams.
We're here speaking with Kala Ambrose, world famous Kala Ambrose. And right now she's talking to us about, I'm looking for it on my page, the Academy of Mystical Arts and Spiritual Sciences. She was so gracious and generous. She sent us a copy of each of her books. The first one is 9 Life-Altering Lessons. We have one here called The Awakened Aura. The one I love the most is Spirits of New Orleans, Voodoo Curses, Vampire Legends, and Cities of the Dead, and of course, Ghost Hunting, North Carolina. And we love you.
We do.
We
love
just
you.
an
We love
exclamation
you.
point. We really do. I have a funny question. Have you ever seen somebody, of course you have, you're Kala. Have you ever seen someone who really believed what they were saying, even though you could see in their energy field, their aura, their chakras, they believed what they were saying, but you also could see where they were lying to themselves in their energy field, but they didn't know it?
I can, because I see the layers of the aura. So when I see the aura, you know, when you go get those pictures taken and people hold them to you, those Polaroids, and say, here's my aura, I'm purple. And I'm like, no, you're not. And I explain to them that's just a quick moment in time and really just part of the auric field. And I say, I can make that color change. And I'm at those expos, right? And they're like, no, you can't. And I said, yes. I said, I'm going to tell you something about yourself and make you really angry at me right now. And you go get your picture taken and you watch. Those colors will be different because you're angry. So I see the layers, the physical, the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, and each layer has a color and each layer changes size. So if you're real emotional, the emotional layer is huge. If you're really in your head, you have a big mental layer. I can see this. I can usually tell a person's profession by those layers. Like scientists have big, big mental layers, teeny tiny emotional layers, right? Not a lot in their going on. So you can see that. So I can see when a person, an example, I work with people to create vision boards, right? To manifest. We've all heard law of attraction, blah, blah, blah. Well, how many people have I worked with, and you know yourself, that it hasn't worked for one reason or another? The biggest reason is a disconnect between your mental field and your emotional field. In your mental field, you're thinking, I want this, I want this, I deserve $100,000, I want this. But in your emotional field, you have this trigger that you've been told maybe in your life, there's no way you could earn that money, or you're not good enough, or you'd never make it. And that emotional field is stronger, and it is canceling out what you're putting in the mental field. And you're making your little vision board. It's so pretty. You're like, oh yeah, you're saying it every day and it's not happening. Well, that's what I see is the disconnect in the aura, because you're saying, you're writing that, you know, how you write on there, I want $100,000 for this. And then the emotions though behind you are saying, that'll never happen.
And that's subconscious tapes?
Yes.
Well,
So it's canceling it out. And that's what needs to be taught with the law of attraction, that if you don't feel it emotionally, then you can't really manifest it mentally. That's why athletes are taught to see themselves winning that race, and they visualize it, and they're emotional. They're like, yes, yes. And they hear the crowd, they're connected mentally and emotionally. And that sometimes wasn't taught, that you can say it all you want mentally, but if your emotional field, which is stronger because it's so chaotic, the emotional field's always moving, it's going to cancel it out. It overrides. That's why when we say things in anger and that emotional field, we're committed to that. And we blast a person. I can see that in the aura. It looks like porcupine quills attacking the person, you know? But we have to be just as passionate about something we believe in, good for ourselves, and be able to express that emotionally. Like, yes, $100,000. Absolutely, I deserve that. It's coming now. When you feel it emotionally, then that energy believes it. All of your aura attunes and says, this is for real. Everybody's agreeing here. Bring it on. So you have to have both connected. Absolutely.
So it would be essentially like driving in your brand new Tesla with the gas and the brake simultaneously, and not being able to figure out why you're not getting anywhere, even though you have the vehicle.
Yes, and wondering why you're smelling that burning smell, because
it was chili for dinner. That's what that was.
Well, no, actually, I kind of can relate to what you said, because actually I was a state champion shot putter in high school. I was an All-American hammer thrower in college. And I did have that mindset. And at that time, going through high school, college, and even after college, I had the mindset of, I visualized of what I wanted, and seriously, things just opened up. The doors opened up all the time. Then I got involved in a relationship that was mentally abusive towards me, and I started feeling bad about myself, and everything shut completely down until years later, when I started finding myself again. And that's when that door started opening up again. So it does make a huge difference of that visualization.
This is John, right?
This is Tony.
Tony, okay. So Tony, you know, and that was supposed to happen, even though, you know, we all have these experiences. We never applaud and go, yay, a negative experience.
Right.
We never cheer it. I don't even. But I've learned to see that really I don't see things anymore as positive or negative. They're all just experiences that you go through. And that's because it was to change you in a way with your mindset to go do new things you were supposed to do and take you off one trajectory into another. So in a way, what I teach people to do to completely remove that energy out of their aura is to be thankful for the experience, and to even send that gratitude. Now, you don't send a Hallmark card. You say it to right? You don't call them and say, wow, thank you.
You were amazing.
But you learn to love the soul, even though you don't love the experience. No, and you understand on a higher space that each person comes into our lives, and sometimes they're there to play the bad guy, to help us. And it just, when you do that, it frees you so much, because you can be thankful for that experience, and not bound or held by it ever again.
Those are contractual relationships, right?
Yeah.
Blueprint?
Yeah. That we set up. So.
And I want to go backwards for just a second. Earlier, when we were speaking about curses and that sort of thing, I can remember a couple of people whenever I was a little kid, some of them directly to my face, and then others behind my back. They would say things like, well, he'll never amount to anything. Don't waste your time on him. Or his parents work in a textile mill. It was like, they live in a trailer park. Don't talk. And so I remember hearing those things, and it hurt my feelings then. And if we don't vibrate higher, like what you're helping us understand, and you just sort of keep those little bugaboos in your energy field or locked in there, that is also one of the blocks. You can do all the vision boards you want, but if you still have that little subconscious niggling of you'll never have it, whether you're thinking it or not, it's activated until we fill ourselves up in a way to vibrate it out. Is that right?
Yes, because your emotional field is still carrying these negating energy. A perfect example is, how many people have you seen that win the lottery? And then they spend it all and lose it all within a year or two, and they're broke again.
And it's 90% of lottery winners do this, by the way.
Because emotionally, they don't feel it's someplace that they deserve it. So there's guilt, and there's remorse, and there's an uncomfortableness with wealth, feeling that that wealth actually makes them uncomfortable. And so they look to remove it until they get in tune with that. Those are the kind of things I teach in Entrepreneur Intuition, and how to get comfortable with this, as well as very practical things like how to build your brand and create a platform and establish yourself as an expert in your field, lots of concrete things. But also I help people get rid of their stinking thinking, like I said, so they're aligned for success to come to them.
So what's activate your aura? Is that, I mean, when you say activate your aura, what does that mean exactly?
Well, because there's the first step, which is understanding you have an aura, right?
Sure, right.
The second is you can expand it and go so much further. This has been taught for thousands of years. It was taught in the ancient mystery school temples. Buddha was taught, shared about the aura. He would send his aura and expand it, that 10 miles outside of a city, they would feel and sense his aura and know he was coming and prepare for him.
Wow.
So this has always been taught in so many different schools of thought. And when you learn to expand your aura, there's so much more that you can do with it. You can enhance your energy that you send out, whether it's manifestation or visualization or in your work or in your chosen field, or to deepen your relationships. When you learn how to activate it and turn it on, you become aware of each of these levels, what's going on in the mental field and the emotional and the spiritual. You learn to tap into the Akashic records and understand why, like I see karmic imprints in the aura, these little videos that I can look at, and they play and they show me like a past life or a karmic thing a person brought back. Well, if you understand these karmic imprints and you've seen them and you activate them in your aura, then you understand why you've met that person and had that experience, or always felt called to live in this city or to move somewhere different than where you were born. You understand the reason for it and the experience. You can play through it and not have to repeat it and clear through all your karmic imprints in a lifetime. That's just one example of 100 I could give you of things you do when you activate your aura.
And when you learn these things that you're helping us understand, especially with the Academy of Mystical Arts and Spiritual Sciences, what you're really doing, helping us do, is demystify the mystery that was there. And you're helping us you're giving us the foundation, the bones, if you will, to build a better platform in our physical lives here, utilizing our non-physical essence.
Yes, I tease that I've been barbecued many lifetimes for always having this mouth and teaching this stuff. And here I am back again. I can't stop talking about it. And now I'm doing it in a divine feminine way in this lifetime. And I've given talks where, there's some Freemasons and all in the background like this, looking at me like you're, because my book is 9 Life-Altering Lessons, Secrets of the Mystery Schools Unveiled. They're like, what are you doing giving these ancient secrets away? And I'm like, I'm sorry, but it's time. It's time for everyone to know. It's not about going and living in a cave and studying with an ancient order where no one gets the information for 15 years. This information needs to be brought out now into the open for anyone who's willing to do. And that's really what the temples and teachings were always about. It wasn't for the few that like, you're not good enough and you are. It was for the few who were really committed, that wanted to do introspection and self-observation and get to know themselves at a soul level. And the first question I ask every student to answer for me is, who are you and why are you here? And the deeper they go into study with me, the more that answer changes. And the more as they peel back the layers, they really discover who they are, which is not the hats that we wear, not wife or husband or daughter, brother, whatever. It's the deeper soul. What is your soul? Who are you at a core soul level? And so that's what I try to teach in essence. And these other ones are different ways of getting to know yourself in all those capacities.
Isn't it fascinating that even today there's just a handful of people who have great, quote, physical power on the earth plane with influence monetarily or politically and or whatever it may be, and then some of those same people still want to limit accessibility to exactly what you're talking about to the masses,
like the 1% versus
meanwhile the 99% or ever how much it is that doesn't have it. And I'm going to go back to something you said a minute, then I'll tie it all together. I feel like the veil between worlds is thinner now than it's ever been before. And I feel like people, especially in the United States, more than ever are in a crunchy place, either financially, emotionally, mentally, or whatever. And their desire, I feel, is bigger now than it's ever been, but I also feel their resistance is equally as big as their desire. So they're still in this sort of quagmire, a lot of people, not everybody. And if we all got together and all taught this to each other, regardless of our economic background or our race or anything, and all supported each other in connecting to source, we could turn this planet on a dime in literally a matter of days just doing this work.
I agree. And the thing is, it's always been this way. Traditional feng shui was always hidden and kept by the emperors, and they used it to build all of their palaces on the ley lines in China so they could control the energy of the ley lines. And it was not taught to the villagers until one feng shui teacher broke with all the rules, risked his life, and he's forever known as teaching to the poor and helping the peasants learn how to even do feng shui and to help their lives. And that's how the secrets got spilled out. There's always someone who will take that chance and do it and share it, and then it's like Pandora's box. Once it's opened, you'll never put it back. But I agree, Eddie, this is a very unique time. And a lot of people will complain to me saying, oh, why did I come back this time? This is such a terrible world. And I'm like, you don't understand. You fought for the right to come back this time. It's an honor to be here. We are watching, to quote REM, the end of the world as we know it.
That's right.
And souls on the other side wanted to come back to be part of this amazing, unique experience. We're moving in from one age, from Pisces to Aquarius. We're also moving cyclical because time moves cyclical. It's circular. It's not linear like we're taught in school. And so we always circle and we evolve and move back around. We're moving from a time of divine masculine into a time of the divine feminine.
Yes.
It's not better or it's just we move in cycles. And so we're always, when you see one cycle ending, the divine masculine, it's going to go out with a roar, wars and fighting and holding on in fear. Like, I've got to hold and keep what's mine, my little dollars, my little fiefdom. Whether you're seeing that in the company you work for or politically or the countries, they're all fighting about their little fiefdoms.
That's right.
And that's the last burst before, we go into this magnificent divine feminine energy.
So this shift has been going since 2012. Like, when you say the end of the world as we know it, I talked about this on Rachel's show earlier. About we're ascending right now. We're going into what's the fifth dimension, the fourth dimension, the fifth dimension, right around that time, right?
I really think we're transforming fourth dimension right now because look at time and how quickly it's moving now. Everyone says this, just like the time's it's faster. You can tell we're shifting fourth dimension. I started telling my students back in 1999, I said something really bad is going to happen. It's not Y2K, but there's going to be some big shifts and we're going to go through a very tough time. And I even told them 2007 through 2014, and this is written in one of my books too that was published then, I said will be the darkest times for humanity at every level. And I said, every person, no one will emerge unscathed between 2007 and 2014 of having to deal with the darkest part of themselves. And so really it started much earlier. And 2012, I think, is misunderstood a lot. It's where the sun went into the darkest part of the universe, and so it had that shadow. It's an ushering in, but it's one of many markers because all big changes, they don't turn on a dime. It takes decades. We've been seeing the divine feminine ushering in the 60s, with people standing up for things and the sexual revolution and women's rights and other things that were brought to forward. Those were all signs of the 20s, even showed signs. It takes a long time for each cycle to move in, but now it's heating up. It's getting busy and it's getting good.
And we're at a combustion point.
Yeah, and revisiting a lot of the 60s and we look at all what's going on right now.
History repeating itself.
Cyclical. That's all we do is cycle and hopefully up and up and up. And it is, if you look at history, we are more evolved. Like I was talking about Marie Laveau and the public, executions. Back in that time, people would pack picnic lunches and bring their children to go watch executions. So we've evolved, kicking and screaming sometimes, but yet what's cycling around again when you turn on the news and you see what's happening in these other countries with beheadings and things. There's still part of the world that's catching up to that and shifting with that. So it's each person, each soul has to evolve as they are, but each person that connects with their energy, with their higher self and lifts it, helps lift the vibration. And the good news is it's easy to be negative, but each person that consciously connects and awakens and becomes a consciousness creator, as it's called, it takes very few of those people to help lift the energy of everyone up. You know, like that saying, what the rising tide lifts all boats, same type of thing. So if it doesn't have to be everyone, but if enough of us do it and stay in that space, we can help change the world. And that's really what we're down here to do.
If we look at everybody who's going through all these difficult times right now, what would you say to help them through those difficult times? Because if we're going through so much transition between 2007 and 2014, and if you haven't had your bad time yet, you're having it right now. A lot of people listening are having their bad times right now.
Yeah.
What would you tell them to help them through that? What life lesson or part of a life lesson that you work with do you think would be appropriate for most people right now?
Well, and I love this question. Thank you. And I've got such good news because the worst is over.
Yay!
2014 was the worst. And this year, 2015, is a regrouping and revising year. I call this the year of quitting. What you're being forced to do this year is anything you didn't work out or come into balance with, you're going to have to deal with it this year. So you're going to see more people quitting that job and saying, I don't care if I have to be the Walmart greeter, I'm quitting this job and doing something else. People are going to leave relationships. They're going to quit anything that no longer is working for them. And it's a good thing. It's a positive thing to be quitting. And this year is all going to be forced about people being forced to make these changes. And if it's not working for you, everything's going to gnaw at you to get rid of it and move forward. The good news is 2016 starts a whole new cycle that's going to be very positive for us, for the world, everything. 2016 to 2024, I'm going to spend a lot of time. I work with a lot of clients on seeing stock trends and economic trends and with entrepreneur tuition and things. And that's where I'm going to be working, saying, look, this is the time to invest in things. This is the time to open a business. This is the time to those dreams you've been thinking about. It's in a place where it's more supportive. People are reevaluating relationships and how they're going to communicate. Everything energetically is going to feel better around this time, March of 2016. So you've got about a year to really clear out. And if you do the work, you're creating a vacuum for the new good energy, because nature abhors a vacuum. So if you clear out the clutter, whether it's your stinking thinking or a bad situation you're in, you're creating room for the new good to come next year.
You are so right, because at least two of us in this room are going through that, and I bet you guys are too. I just don't know what the circumstances are.
Embrace it. It's for your good. It's for your highest and best good. And say that divine order, bring in the white light, ask for highest and best, and be brave. This is your year to be brave and let it go. Walk away. Be the phoenix. Get ready for your rebirth next year. Finally, good news is coming. Really,
that's great news.
I have to say though, that is true. 2014, December 31st, I purchased, or I bought out my business partner, and that was a cleansing for me, and I love her to death.
For everybody,
but the doors again have opened up
in a new way,
substantially in this business. So yeah, it's amazing how 2015 is looking already.
Well, you've got green all around you in your aura, and it's swirling and opening, which is all heart chakra and expansion and growth. So even more than you knew.
For Tony?
Action is coming.
And that's for Tony or for the station as a whole?
Tony is the station.
He is the anchor from where things are springing forward. So there's much more coming for him personally, as well as for the station to spin out that way.
I love hearing that. Well, we're running out of time, but I have to ask you this. There's somebody in the chat room. We don't want to ignore that they were asking. They said, ask her thoughts on affirmations. Says her issue is affirmations don't work unless the emotion is on board. So I guess that's something, maybe some little advice that you can give to Jamie in the chat room.
Is that my friend Jamie?
I don't know.
It probably is, because we had a conversation about affirmations.
Maybe that's what it is.
Okay, I'm sorry,
Well,
Kayla.
That's what I was saying a while back, right, in this conversation.
Yes.
That
Right.
if you affirm it and you're saying that, but emotionally you're canceling it out with a different thought. If you affirm this is going to happen, but emotionally you're thinking that'll never happen, you're disrupting the two levels of the aura there, and you're going to cancel, and the stronger belief will cancel it out.
So that
now
exercise?
If you believe stronger than you were told, and you can override that, you're going to override it. There was a belief that no one could run the 4-minute mile. Remember that?
Oh,
Right,
yeah.
until somebody
And
did.
ran the 4-minute mile who believed it and didn't listen, overcame that belief, and now everyone says, well, of course you can run a 4-minute mile.
Well, of course, you're
Well, I
welcome.
couldn't, but-
Yeah, well, it was me that did that.
Oh, okay.
That's true. I thought it was.
Yeah. No, that was the 4 pints of Ben and Jerry's, and what? No, I'm joking. That's me.
Less sugar.
I have this picture in my mind, Kayla, and it goes back to Jamie super quick, and that is one of the things that we'll talk about in classes is I call your solar plexus your gut brain and your heart mind. And whenever I'm working with affirmations with somebody, I always try to get them to start first in any feeling that feels good, like your gut brain is a crystal ball, until you can see images in that visually that start feeling really good to you, like nature or trees or the ocean or whatnot, and then move that energy up to your heart mind, and then move it up to your brain, and then start playing with it that way in reverse. Would that help, Jamie?
I think so. Eddie, I wasn't joking earlier when we talked. I think you and I definitely were together in a past life, in one of the temples or something like that, where we studied together and learned things. So each teacher teaches, in the way with them. I teach, through the aura. You're teaching. Absolutely, science is even proving now that the gut level, that there's a brain there, and that's actually where energy comes in through first, as I see in the aura. It comes in through the solar plexus area and then finally goes up to the brain. The brain is the last part where it comes through and we speak it. So we all should pay attention to those gut feelings, those butterflies in the stomach, or when we're feeling a little, upset, because it's processing that energy and telling us something. And so it's very important to do. And the other thing I teach students with the thoughts is you can't not think of something. You can't just say, well, I won't think about it. It doesn't go away. It's still going to stay in your energy field. If I say right now, don't think about the Statue of Liberty. Don't think about she's in New York. Don't think about what color green she is. Don't think about what the torch means in her hand. What are you thinking about?
Bananas.
No, I'm thinking.
You can't not think about something. That's
Totally
just pushing
kidding.
it away and ignoring it. So what you have to do is replace the thought with a new thought. So I'm like, don't think about the Statue of Liberty. Instead, think about, pink elephants. Are pink elephants real? Are they only, at parties? Yeah. What about pink elephants? Are they the same size as gray elephants? And so you change the energy to think about something else. And so if there's an affirmation and you find that you're struggling and something isn't working, look and see what you can change about that and what you can override with it energetically. But as well, I always go back to, you have to get to the core and find out what that emotional disconnect is if it's not working.
That's right. I love this.
Yeah, it's great.
ExploreYourSpirit.com. Kala Ambrose, I'm so honored to have you on the show. You have been wonderful, wonderful, and we hope you come back.
And
I'd love to. I know we didn't get to talk too much about New Orleans, so
I
I'm
know.
happy to come back and tell you some of the great stories from there too. But I love talking about all the books or any of these topics anytime. So thank you all for having me, and it was so wonderful to get to be with all of you.
Yay. Oh, the crowd goes wild.
And make sure you join Kayla. Go on to her website. Tony's got it posted online to find out more about the Academy of Mystical Arts and Spiritual Sciences, because she has a brand new class that's going to be starting in April, on April the 2nd. It's for 6 weeks. Jump in there.
All right.
Well, thank you. And please, again, we're going to, Eddie, you're going to have to set this up again so we can have Kayla back.
Please, please.
Hopefully she can come in studio one of these
Yeah,
days.
if you're ever-
fun.
Yeah,
That would be great.
When you come to LA, you have to come out here and play.
It's a deal, absolutely.
And you remind me of my friend Chrissy Metz, who was on American Horror Story. She played I'm a Wiggles. I don't know if you watched that. If you watched the last season,
I'm a Wiggles. That's
but yeah, she played I'm a Wiggles, and your voice and just your mannerism, the energy that comes through reminds me so much of Chrissy. It's crazy that I would like to get the two of you, because she was on that show and you were talking about that earlier. So I think it'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, I was down in New Orleans when the book came out, Spirits in New Orleans, and I was invited. Anne Rice has a vampire ball down there and a writers conference, and I was asked to be one of the writers that spoke, and I attended the vampire ball with my book, The Spirits in New Orleans. And American Horror Story, I was talking with some of the people there that filmed it. they ended up listing my book as the #1 book to read to go to New Orleans and find out the truth about all the stories
Well,
there.
there you
So
go.
that was I'm sorry, it was the group that does the books through American Horror Story, not them directly, but still it was a great compliment.
Just for fun, do we have time to ask her if you could look at your own aura right now?
Oh.
Kayla, what does your own aura look like? Because you have so much energy.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's the hardest thing to do is to see your own aura. So you really have to use the third eye. Usually my aura is turquoise, which is a sign of like a healer in a sense, but I'm more of a soul healer than a physical laying on hands type. I heal the soul. It's usually turquoise with some gold mixed in.
That makes so much sense.
My favorite colors.
I know.
Right?
Wow.
All right, my dear, and
Take
come
care.
back. Take care, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Kayla. We love
Bye.
Mwah. Love to you all.
Love you back. All right, bye-bye.
Sweet.
All right, so are we going to be doing an unlock?
You want to?
Let's do it. So let's go ahead and just take about a 30-second break. When we come back, unlock your universe with Dan with Eddie Corner.
All right.